Welcome back, everyone, to the Impossible Puzzles Show. It's episode 190, and we're joined here by John Bobo. Oh, share that again. Could you share your screen again? That was fascinating.
Yeah,
That was fascinating.
before as we were ramping up the podcast, you showed me your light board, and
Yeah.
and so I said it reminded me of the tidbit, which is this device right here. It's been out for a few years, and when I lived in Boston, I could get the red line schedule, and I could see when the next car was coming, and I could go get it, and I could get the weather. It's just a lot of fun to have in your office, and kind of play around. I just love what you do with whiteboards.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of pixel art and graphical art and programmable lights. And we're going to get deep into thinking schematics in your update. I'm literally sitting in front of a stack of some 30 crazy Bible puzzles.
Oh, wow.
Oh, learning too much makes you cough. Yeah. I'm allergic to non-visual systems,
Yeah,
I have these are all examples of this is Psalm 126.
you know what? That looks like musical Tetris.
That's exactly what it is. These
Yeah.
are famous teachings from the book of Proverbs,
Oh, wow.
encoded in I'm always inspired by you, actually. You're the one who, before I was doing everything digitally, I didn't think about the actual spatial mapping the way you're doing it. So give us an update. Tell us how you're doing for
Gosh.
who
Well,
don't know you yet. And
it's great to be back on the show. And I think if people have been watching from the top, this is how our conversations go. And but yes, I'm with Thinking Schematics. We make tools that discover, celebrate, and amplify nonlinear thinking. And we have really just revealed our beta. Now, right now, it is in a desktop app on Mac with Silicon chip. We are getting to Intel chip. We're going to then get to Windows, and hopefully pretty rapidly in terms of this type of development. But right now, we're just getting our initial beta testing going. So that's been incredibly exciting. And so I guess what I couldn't do in the last podcast is I'm now public with what our beta looks like.
Yes. And it was great chatting before, and just a little update, if you will. You worked at NASCAR, where they were pumping out media, like pieces of media in the thousands every week. You worked as a prosecutor in Tennessee. You have worked in large government organizations, and you are openly, just like me being wildly, as an autistic savant, you are proud and open of dyslexia and neurodiversity, and we're almost celebrating neurodiversity and different ways of thinking, whether it's lights and puzzles and shapes, or in your case, how would you give the intro or even demo for Thinking Schematics?
Well,
your baby.
To give you a little context, it's funny that we have to talk that we're open about our dyslexia and ADHD. I mean, there was a time left-handed people were not open about being left-handed. And
yes,
when left-handed became more accepted, all of a sudden the numbers just jumped because people couldn't believe how many real left-handed people they are. And that's you and me. We are talking about our neurology. We're talking about the way we were born. And oftentimes we find the world is not designed for us. A lot of the tools that I've been given throughout life, here's this memorandum, here's this PowerPoint, here's this spreadsheet. Does the world really need more spreadsheets? I'm just asking. I really don't think they are. And so they've all been the right-handed desk. So what I think happens to me happens to a lot of nonlinear thinkers. You're given an assignment, you go away, and our thoughts our thoughts rotate and they orbit and they move around. And then we're trying to take all this visual information that we have and take a mallet and pound it into a spreadsheet or pound it into, I think dyslexics spend more time stressing about the format of what something needs to be produced in than maybe actually producing the work, because we know we have to translate it for the nonlinear people. And you know what? They can't help it either. They were born that way. So, but I think it's the most exciting time in the world right now to be a nonlinear person. We have the number one skill that AI does not have. Basically, AI is a compilation of all linear information in the world. So,
Oh my God, we've opened the can of worms. And as we're saying this, tangential to this, I'm even delighting in my messy basement, if you will, just to show how messy it is. And there's so many people in my life that are like, what are you doing in your basement? And you're crazy. And what happened to being my mom even is like, why did you drop out of chemical engineering and switch into art and math and language studies? And even today, yeah, everything you're saying hits home. And there's a lot of people who aren't yet comfortable in their own skin. And these are as many are watching or will be watching this episode and among the other episodes. And sometimes they just need to see. Sometimes we just need to see someone like us, a wild octopus or a little dog in a world of cats. And they need to see people like us thriving, striving, struggling. And I'm always amazed by can we call it a weekly update of the number of features you're packing in your system, your tool, and the graphical flavors of planets rotating. And as you're saying this, I'm in my basement here, and I have this like favorite toy where it's like using just colors and shapes and just like a basic 7x7 grid. This was the hugest inspiration for me. Just a small cheap bag of little colorful shapes.
Now I want you to take that tray, put water in it, and then put food color in each square that represents it, and then you'll have a song in your tray and ice.
Oh, yeah. Even better. You're a million steps ahead. I was just going to remind everyone how beautiful it is in the simplicity of a boat or a train or a flower or a palace or a donkey or a dragon or a monkey or a tree or a tea kettle or pineapple or an apple or a car or a rocket ship. And I mean, the list goes on. I have 100 of these such cards, but you're all about that, is seeing the world through, I'm putting words in your mouth. Seeing through, seeing things, seeing through things and into things, and not just looking at the color red as red, but perceiving its texture and the depth. And this is, you can call it ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, neurodiversity, or in some cases, schizophrenia or multisensory, or there's so many terms in the space. What are some of the other terms? Synesthesia.
Yeah.
But these are gifts.
I think it's the myth of normal. And I don't really think we have to worry about a label in terms of the tools that we work with, right? I think most people intuitively know if they're a visual thinker or not, or if they learn by doing. There's so many different ways to learn. And when I started trying cases as a young prosecutor, I became fascinated with how people learn. And I found that the best way to learn was through very strong visuals and story. And that's what I would try to build my trials around, and with facts and truth and the law. But let me show you what I have built. I've been talking to some of my friends, and for us, thoughts remain in motion. And
me too. Me too. As you're saying this, I have around me. Yeah, I need my tactile things. Well, you're gonna. Oh, I love it. I love it. Everything that's visual and multisensory captures my heart. My heart sings to this. Teach us, oh Rabbi of super technology here.
Um, well, you know, a lot of ADHD people are productivity nuts. They get on every platform they can possibly get because part of it is subconsciously it's like if I get on the right productivity system, it will fix me. Um, and part of it is after a number of months, it just becomes too much and you can't find anything. So, for me personally, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So this is what we're doing. We have built cards that are visual, and that's one of my favorite quotes from Atomic Habits. That the human body has roughly 11 million sensory perceptors, and 10 million are visual. And so what I did was I built cards that were inherently visual if you want it to be visual, right? Or if you want it to be infinite text or infinite whiteboard. And the folks over at Excalidraw do such a great job, and so we've got in the Excalidraw tools here that are just fantastic, and they're doing so much in the space, and we're so fortunate that we are able to take advantage of their MIT license because it really helps. But then we can take our card and we can assign tags and phrases, and we can do timers. We can even print it as a PDF. But then what happens is your card then goes here and it's up there. But where can I put my card that I'm always going to see it and know about it? Well, I'm going to put it right here in this planet. And what this planet does is it stores the card in space, and then I can unpack it and see where it is and what it does. But really, this is
God. Sorry to
no.
keep going. Can I throw out some exaltations of, fortune has favored us. Oh my God. Fortune favors the bold, and you have crossed the Rubicon. There's no going back. Once one has breached the cubic and rotationary planetary spheres, we have crossed into a different realm. This is just, my heart is singing. Oh, King David's Psalms are spewing out. Go on.
Well, if I can talk over your, would that be a harp or a lie you're playing? The reason the cards always face out on this globe is, I've been in plenty of note systems, and I don't know what's buried what and how many layers. Here, I can kind of look at a globe and grok on what it is. See right there, there's my card, and I know what's in it. But what is even more exciting is the ability to create relationships. So here's a priority project. KPIs are important, but they're not as important. So we'll just have that as a moon that's orbiting that, and we'll always know. Oh, then we've got to get our research, and so we'll bring in our research to this, and and then we can't forget the customers, right? And
wow,
and so right,
wow.
so now,
It's a planet with its moons, its satellites, its orbiting elements, and the cards sit within individual package spheres, and the spheres can rotate around other spheres. You have almost an atomic atom-based micro model, which is the same as the planetary model, which is macro, super big. Fascinating. You're working on this like crazy each day, better than the previous.
I am, and what's really important for dyslexics is to always see the global picture. In school, you're given these little details to memorize, and I still don't know my times table. I can't remember them because they're not in the context of a bigger picture or a bigger story. So this system is a global system. You can see everything you want to see on a particular project, and then you can go further. Now, here is Here is
Wow.
a globe that's fully formed, and you can go in, and then you hit there, and then you can see all your cards and rearrange them. What's great about this is, especially for presentations, is, especially if you're in sales, you go in and somebody asks a question and says, well, where are you on that? Well, that'll be slide 22. We can't answer your question yet, right? And that's the prison of being linear. With this behind you, you can just go directly to the slide and cover what you need to cover. Back in the day, they used to create hyperlinked PowerPoints for this, but those were really tough to do it. And then we've got a lot of ways we can find what's there. We've created an index, and here I can see what's in this globe. I can just see it by going down there. And then another great way is I have a globe grid right here. I can see every globe that's in this universe, and then I can move cards around and put them
Wow.
on different globes. And so that's sort of the basics, but I've got other tools that help tell the relationships a little better. One is called elements, and my favorite is the orbit element. So let's say you can also put cards in cubes. Cubes can only hold 6 slides right now. It may grow, but I think of them as space nuggets, right? They're just little things that don't need to be more than that. But here's an overview of a SWOT analysis,
Wow.
right? And
Wow.
so now I want to put my
Fascinating.
SWOT analysis there, and it's going to start there. And I've got my hotkeys. These are all just kind of examples, but you can put whatever you want to put, and then you can build it in a way where you can put different globes in the center. You can put 5 globes in the center. You could make this more more vertical than horizontal. So being able to control your own flight path has just been really exciting. And we've also built icons like this icon here. It's just of a report. And you can print a globe, and the globe comes out as a PDF, and it is so professional looking. I've created reports in a globe, but here the planets hover, and you'll see I'll take this planet off, and it'll one of them will. Well, sometimes they grow. These must have all been moons when I put them here, but they have a gravity that anchors them to
Wow. I
that.
love it. I'm just reflecting back. I love how so you have the sort of the cue cards, the rectangle cards, which can be displayed in a sort of two-dimensional grid. And that's really called unpacking, because the emphasis here, as you've said, is that it's really intended to be a three-dimensional spherical world where the cards lay out either on the spheres or around the spheres, and then the spheres interact. The spheres, which are really, could we say, arrays of 2D of index cards, the sets of index cards, then can be displayed in in spherical 3D. It's just I'm just taking it all in. I spend a lot of time where I'm sitting in front of 3 phones, 3 computers, because each computer can only do so much. And here I'm talking to you, but I'm also trying to keep up to date on your website and follow along. So there's some multi-brain tasking, grokking, if you will, trying to take it all in. In your tool, really, you don't need 4 computers and 3 phones. It's a super tool that allows you to go on all dimensions and directions. And I love it. I am this very Mike Mercury, if I could say.
The real strength of it is the systems that I can show, and
Please.
and just here is a traffic congestion spiral, and over here is civil infrastructure. You can very easily show people what these things are and work, and then go into the globes and have more context. Here is a a 3D spatial mind map of a SWOT analysis, not a mind map, a SWOT analysis. And you can show the systems itself, like the biggest weakness is a systems weakness, with field support being the worst and invoicing being problematic, and how those two things interact with there. What are our threats? All the things that are going on in the world that are kind of crazy, and you can go into each examples as you're talking to people. You have a daily planner, and you can adjust this planner however you want. I have shown up at places the wrong days on meetings. I've missed meetings. And it's because a calendar, reading details on a calendar is decoding. But a picture, it may be worth 1,000 words to some people. It's worth 1,000,000 words to me. I get more from a memory marker, a small picture, than I do the calendar. And it may refer me to those details, so I can find the right room and right street and that kind of thing. But this is one way, and you can have this a week ahead. You can have it that week. Another thing, and I don't think I've seen this anywhere else, is our day-by-day calendar. And if you'll see, you have the events there, and you can adjust this, any kind of size you want. But what's exciting about it is a lot of times I've had calendars where they have where you are in time over here, and I'm over here on Saturday or Friday, and I'm having to look across all this mess. So you could just roll up your week. And what it also does is it gets rid of visual clutter as you're trying to look and see what you got to do today. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then ultimately, a lot of people use Kanbans, the Japanese system, the manufacturing system. And let me just show you real quick. This is your traditional Kanban.
I love the old Kanban and the Trellos and there's also Waterfall. These are your software development systems, or also industrial, manufacturing, of course. Japanese.
Right. And for a lot of visual thinkers, this was as good as we had it, right?
Yeah.
But really, these are glorified lists that you rearrange, right? And so what I've done, though, is I've taken the Kanban and I've turned it sideways. And so what used to be topics across the top are now topics on the side. And what I mean by that is in this globe grid mode, I can see every topic for the Kanban, and then I can move things around in that globe. But it does not look linear when I use it.
Oh my God. The exhortations are coming out. I'm literally, as I'm watching this, I'm reflecting on all my, or even just for me in my desk, and I'm sitting around thousands of these grid puzzles with colors and shapes. And what you have here is an enhancement to any puzzle or game or board game or notes or notebook. You have a way to, it's like almost a universal enhancement to all nonlinear thinkers, whether they're an inventor, a designer, a creative, an artist, a website builder, an app developer, all the hundreds of people I know. They, the rising tide, if you will, the rising tide lifts all boats. And John, you have here a magical, my heart is just, be still my heart.
I really appreciate it. One way I think about it is, I don't know how you think. I don't know how other people think. One of the things about dyslexia and ADHD is they believe it's the hemispheres of the brain are wired differently. And no two dyslexics have the same wiring. No two ADHD have the same wiring. But what I've done is I've given you the tools to design it for how your unique brain thinks. And just quickly, you can unpack everything in this globe, and then you always triage and say maybe someday. So I diminish it by making it a moon. But here, with things on deck that I'm about to do, I check them against my key priorities, and that's a red. So in a way, it's there because it's smaller, but it's not the main focus of the globe. And then it comes over to what you're doing, what you're actually doing. And what you're actually doing is you've got a couple things that you're not actually doing, but have to be close at hand. The people you need to follow up with, the upcoming meetings you got to prepare for, and the email you just sent, and now you're waiting on a response, but it's still on your plate. And then you can move it all to done. And then I've diminished it, and I've even turned the slides inward so you don't see them, and it doesn't take your attention.
I
but
love it.
it's there for you
The
if you like.
colors and the shapes and the spheres and the underlying structure of, like, here are your rectangle index cards. Here they can group together. We can unpack them to see them in a two-dimensional array, or we can kind of fold and flex them together to sit on a globe. We can have our sphere. We can have the spheres and the cubes. You sort of have this beautiful wedding, if you will, a marriage of 2D and 3D shapes, and it's almost like this is like a religious experience. Anyone who's an atheist, once they hop on the visual note system, they're like, uh-oh.
Let me tell you, I've thought, and by the way, my head turns wherever I've moved the screen of us talking. Oh, sorry about that. But I have considered our nonlinear friends. So we go into a globe, and this is Korean chess, right? I
played Korean chess. Jung-gi with the cannon and the elephant, the horse. Yes. And the cards. Yes.
You were way ahead of me. So I wanted to learn more about it because my daughter's getting married in Korea, and I wanted to be able to.
Mazel tov. Yes, your
daughter's
thank you. Getting married. Yes.
So you click on a card, and right. So you immediately see what it is through the pictures, but you click on the card, you enlarge it, and then with these arrows over here, you can go through everything for your nonlinear friends. And I have some users who present out of this. And one of the reasons they present out of this is if a question comes up and they have other details, then they go to a cube or they go to another more detail in that universe somewhere. And so that's been a lot of fun, and I think it's important. And again, this totally prints out as a PDF. And then the other thing is, we've been looking at it in the graphic paper mode, but there is a space mode. And the nicest thing I hear is when people come up to me who are nonlinear and say, "Oh, this is really that's how I see it. That's how I think. This
is my brain." You got the Mike Merker brain coming out. It's almost like you are justifying or shall we say, praising what's always been called a disability for generations. I'm only 42, so I grew up a little easier. But you're talking here about that era where the left-handed person would be beaten with a ruler until he bleeds, because it's not kosher. And here you're celebrating you're celebrating almost the inner space of the creative, neurodiverse thinker. Neuro leadership is at the forefront here. And
it used to be that left-handed people, especially in Victorian times, were considered special needs, and they were pulled out of class. I often wonder if they were rounded up for the short cart. They probably didn't have short buses then, but hundreds of years, right? Before they come out of the shadows, so to speak, and we accept it. And I would say dyslexia and ADHD and all the other related neurodiversity is as misunderstood now as it was maybe 20 years ago. I know when I was in school in the 70s and the advent of disco, you were just told to rub dirt on it and take fourth grade again, right?
That's right. I failed. That's right. I remember in university, or I was always behind in reading and reading comprehension. Still am. I'm terrible at that. And it's like here you've created a way for, it's so hard to read the written word in black and white, one-dimensional arrays of letters. It's hard for anyone who has a circus in their mind or who has an explosive. It's almost like the brain it's not built for that.
Here's what's going on. You're like
Yeah.
me, or for neurotypical people, reading is automatic. For us, it's decoding, and there have been studies that have shown dyslexics expend 5 times the energy reading as a non-dyslexic does. Now, you can't tell me, and ironically, these kids are called lazy and slow, but they're working 5 times harder than anybody else, right? And I think that's what's unfortunate. And it is not, reading ability is not connected to intelligence, right? So
Yeah, no, yeah. It's you have found a way also where you've taken different life experiences in law, in government institutions, in dealing with media, in dealing with complicated, like NASCAR, in dealing with note taking. And here you've kind of pooled you've kind of taken a multi-dimensional life's work across a huge spectrum of different things. And you said, hey, I'm just going to stop everything. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, with my own 2 hands and some AI tools, thank God, but with my own 2 hands, I'm going to create a new system that covers my needs, because if it works for me with my unique gifts and challenges, then it will work for everyone else who doesn't have the time or bandwidth or experience or safety net to pursue such a creation. And I can so relate to, I love it. I love it. It's a great moment when a person collects all their life experiences, good and bad. And I too have, I've been called every name in the book and fired a million times, but it's a great experience when it's like people like us collect our unique interpretations of the world and our bizarre and unique gifts. And then now we can share them with the world in a way that is not in real time interfering with someone or coming late to the meeting or going the wrong day. Happens to me all the time. You weren't at the bar mitzvah. I was like, I was there the wrong day. I was there for the bar mitzvah, but it was someone else's bar mitzvah, but the food wasn't as good. They didn't have as much salmon. How many times I've gone the wrong day? My wife, even when I was getting married, it's like, I learned after, it came out after, but it's like, we were worried if you'd be able to drive to the right location, if you even wrote it down. And I'm like, oh, it's so true. It's so true.
That's why my wife had somebody drive me. It's an interesting point. This is the first time, and it's an exciting, exciting time. It's the first time that we can work with graphics files this size, right? And easily. It is the first time that all the linear things that get in my way are pushed aside by AI to a degree. And I can then take that experience. And I'll tell you a funny story is, well, it's not funny, but it's how I discovered mind mapping. This was like 1994. I had been assigned vehicular homicides and DUI cases as a prosecutor. And I had done for a couple of years murder cases and narcotics. I'd done everything. But this was really hard because, a murder statute's a paragraph of a statute on impairment and driving impaired is 63 pages and often conflicts. The science is hard. And then also from a point of view of advocacy, the jury is in the shoes of the driver at times. They're never in the shoes of the armed robber of the convenience store. So I was really trying to, how do I tell these stories? And I happened to be in a class and was introduced to mind maps. And then what I did is I took a picture of like an outline of the human body, and I would mind map with the jury, because the defense would get up and talk about, it's the lying police officer, the lying prosecutor, the lying judge. It's never their fault. And how do I refocus it on their conduct? And I just learned how to mind map it. And oh my gosh, it became one of the most effective tools. And I've trained prosecutors across the country with that tool. And so I think, and I'm going to go back and share, one of my biggest
share more. Yes, share more.
Exciting things is I've been able to create mind maps. And So these are
I love it.
three-dimensional. They're not a glorified list with colored lines underneath them in parentheses. You can scroll in them out. You can drive through it. And what's interesting about driving through it is I can put the next layer of titles in, and you can kind of,
Oh my God, this is just
right?
oh,
You
the
can go
colors
through,
and the shapes and almost the chemical, almost like the organic chemistry, the beautiful charts and maps and flows and symbolic representations of colors and shapes. This is just
well,
oh, this is just so oh, I just love this. I feel like you are in my mind layering out the challenges I have when I'm talking to someone and I'm like within the first second of going in. You had this too in your life when like the first 2 seconds you can interpret almost magically. You grok is the famous word. Grok before it was an AI tool. Grok means to instantly intuit a sense of a problem or a situation or a huge amount of information. And here you have the ultimate innate nature, both of us, where it's like we just know whatever's going on is wrong and who's intersecting with who. And here it just gets better and better. There's so many. You have a system of grokking, a system of sensing data and dissecting it. Oh, this should be a parental advisory warning. That should be X-rated. That is
well,
almost too much.
uh,
Call the rabbis.
what was
That
interesting
is not
about it
kosher.
was, we discovered
Yeah,
if we
yeah.
did our meeting agenda on a mind map, because none of us are going to be contextual and go down a list. We would cover everything, and then we would start building out underneath the agenda. And at the end of the meeting, somebody goes, or my co-founder at the time goes, "Oh my gosh, that's a heat map of our entire meeting and where the work is in the company." There is limitless ways to do this. And I think what really broke this open for me is I figured out a way, woke up one morning in a fever dream and figured out how to help people navigate the spheres in 3D space without having to know Cartesian navigation. So you can put in, a name, you can put in an image. I always put in the logo of our company, which represents both hemispheres of the brain. But then if you want to create something, you just click and, you enter Mike, right? And there you have it. And you can hide your grid and then see where it is with him.
I love can we call it the three-dimensional positioning on the screen, the sense of the relational. It's like when I was learning about relational databases and I was trying to explain to a muggle, if you will, or a non-computer, super tech, non-neurodiverse, a neurotypical person. I'm like, did you know like data flows in like these pipes? And the person's like, I don't know anything about this. I'm like, oh, I got to tell you, there's like flows. You think you're doing a Google search. Data is ripping apart and flowing abstractly in different pipes. And, you can't explain in words something that is intuitively measurable. Well, now you can. Now you can with John Bobo over here. Yes.
Well, it is.
I love
It has been so much fun, and I just want to spend time. So now we've gone to 2 levels, and just to real quickly show you how we'd go to 3 is click the plus sign, and now this is the last level. And what is interesting is here, last level, is these are wireframed globes instead of like the nodes you've seen in the top 2 levels, because in a future build, you'll be able to put all the related cards in there that you need. So then when you're presenting your mind map and, you're up here at this top level, here's your main problem, here's the main level in the next level. And then you get down to where the details are. You can go even deeper if needed. But that is, I think,
wow.
going to be a lot of fun for people. And you know what, I'm excited about seeing what people do with these tools. I really am, because as you know, once you release a technology into the wild, no telling where it goes, right?
Oh my God. As you're saying this, I have this like insane, bizarre like shapes around me of like these biblical puzzles, whatever. And yes, whatever excitement I have, there's like all the people who around me, some who actually hate me and have told me like never work here again or you suck. And then, yeah, I've been at like trade shows and I'm like filling my booth with blocks and grids and puzzles and all sorts of tchotchkes and whatnot. And the people who hate, or I wouldn't say hate, the people who like in the past were like, get this out of here. When they see me or you or what we're building in our natural habitat, they look on like, oh, it's not hate. It's kind of nervousness around innovation. And you're feeling this in your own life a bit. Sometimes, just me being me or you being you, we're opening up so many unknowns, and people
Yeah.
get frightened because their whole sense of identity may be tied to less multidimensional thinking and more linear thinking and more neurotypical thinking. And then when you walk in the room with like dynamite, if you will, it frightens people. Or they're like, Merker, how do you know these 400 things perfect by memory? I'm like, well, you gotta, can't you interpret the intersections? It's like, no, can't read your Legos. Your experiences are the same.
I think I get a couple things. I get reactions. I call the RCA dog reaction.
Yeah.
What is that? I get some people that say, "Hey, I'm linear, but I can see what this can do, and this could be really helpful to people." And then I have people that very pointedly tell me, "Well, I'm linear," with a certain haughtiness, and as we'd say back home, bless their heart, right? It is.
You can't win over everybody
No.
the life is not about winning over everyone. There will always be the early adopters, the innovators who are the first who are like the the parakeets who are like, or whatever, the canaries who are like wanting to sense what's new and cool and on the frontier. And then 99% of people are just we don't need to alter the course of history and break out of the matrix. You want to be the unique one. You can't help it.
I don't know about that. I want to be as creative as I can. I think one thing that's problematic is it's great for young people to hear, oh, if you're dyslexic, you have superpowers. If you're ADHD, you have superpowers. That's great to hear. But I think when adults hear that in the workplace, they interpret as you're saying I'm less than you because I can't do this. And this is where labels kind of get in the way. And I think we talked about, I don't know if we've talked about it personally. I don't know if we talked about it in the last podcast, but I won't be able to find the meeting, right? And they'll, and they're exasperated with me because I can't find the meeting. And then I go in and they're presenting and I'm thinking, well, that's pretty obvious. I'll wait for them to say it. I couldn't find the meeting. And then finally you say, well, the answer is this. And then they don't get it at first. And you're exasperated at that, right? So we all need to have compassion and understanding for each other, right?
I've had experiences literally in my life where, like, over a course of 5 years, 100 rabbis came up to me. They're like, this is not how we teach. This is not how we learn. This is not the way to do it. We don't want you to be doing it this way. We don't want you to color code, index, and map our systems. Our books are private access, and a lot of conflict. And I didn't know that walking into a place of traditional learning, Orthodox synagogue and our learning center, and coming in with exotic shapes, I didn't know that I was, this is what, like $1. This is like $1 worth of off-brand sideways pixel bricks, like that of a Lego or building block. I didn't know that me being me and doing what I need to do to teach absolute beginners in a way that's fun and with the hands and tactile and visual, I didn't know I was messing with, thousands of years of identity and history. And, but that's just sometimes what happens in life is that if we come from if we import to a more narrow or more specific field, law, medicine, accounting, religious studies, computer engineering, if you come in with like really out there arts and visuals and systems thinking, people get really uncomfortable. They're like, we're not saying literally the quotes are like, we're not saying you're not intelligent, but we don't feel comfortable with this. And I'm like, I don't care if you don't feel comfortable. I'm responsible for teaching this guy and this guy and this guy, and that's my job. And these guys can't read a lick. They don't know a lick of Judaism. They don't know a word of Hebrew, and it's not working. So I need to come up with a special method of education. And it's hard. It interferes with people's identity and sense of self. If you come out of nowhere with weapons, it's like, you can't bring these weapons here.
Yeah, you've got to meet people where they are, right? And that's why I've put in some translation tools, right? You can take any globe and make it linear. You can have PDFs and reports, because we live among the linear world. And you meet people where they are, but sometimes you can't go that far in the distance, but you can help them slowly get there. I think, and this is why dyslexics and ADHD and everybody else doesn't do well in school. We've created a system where basically 1 in 5 children struggle, where 20% of the kids struggle, and it is, and then to think that video or images or things, it's better than it's ever has been. But I remember, and this dates me, but my senior year of high school, I had to convince my professor to let me type on a word processor. This is before the Macintosh. We had these old Apples, the 2C Lisa or whatever that was. But because typing gets it out of my head. It's the first thing that got stuff out of my head, which is one of the things about nonlinear thinkers is they can't always get what's in their head out of their arm onto paper, especially young people, right? It's a developmental challenge. So yeah, why not build a tool that works with 20% of the population?
It's so true. And I've heard people say, I mean, in different circles, I've heard people say, oh, if we don't start doing Montessori, everything will fall apart. Or if we don't incorporate some hands-on this, everything will fall apart. The reality is, in 2026 and onwards, if you will, the educators, the teachers, the preachers, the rabbis, the administrators in schools, in universities and colleges, we all need to accept that, like, we've moved into, call it the TikTok brain or the youth addicted to media, whatever. The reality is everything is changing, and you can't lie to yourself forever. You have to, larger organizations, they have to accept that, like, the 10-year-old today, when he or she's 30 years old, they're going to have a different brain chemistry. Everything's mega instant media. They're not going to be able to, pen and paper's gone the ways of the dodo. And you're right. It's like as you were saying, it's like the season, if you will, for the mega creative, out of the box thinkers, the dogs in the world of cats, the square pegs for round holes. Us, we are now able to flourish. And yeah, I remember. I think about all the interesting ups and downs in being married with 5 kids, and how many times it's like, oh, daddy's in his own world with his colors and shapes. And I'm like, thank you. And they're like, no, it's not a compliment.
Well, the hyper focus is sessions can be difficult for those we live with, and even our own awareness of what we need to do to get out of them. And there's, people have different ways. I think you're absolutely right. I know with my own children who are now adults, growing up with YouTube, they had access and Reddit, they had access to knowledge that I never had. They knew there were pathways to things in life I had no idea about at that age. And it's already changed the world. And my biggest takeaway from watching them grow up is we're moving from a universe where everything is with letters into a visual language. And they understand the visual narrative intuitively better than like anybody over 40. Right?
It's so true. And it's not just the visual. It's almost like when I think about my grandparents, when I think about my parents versus my children, and then I think about like how many times I was shouted at as a kid for poor spelling, inability to write, inability to talk in straight, organic sentences. And then now my kids, they don't have that. There's no spelling is not a thing anymore. Spell check. We don't need spelling.
Oh,
And also we don't, everything's very, like I walked into, you go into a school any day, whatever, a PTA, a parent teacher, anything. And it's like, there are computers in every classroom and there are large screens and there's access to iPads or laptops. So like, I remember when I was younger, we were lucky if we had like typing class, once a week. And there was maybe one game on the computer. There's nothing to do. It was typing. There was no coding.
Yeah, we've come such a long way. I was scared to death up until the age of 18. I was going to be sent to military school. Me
too.
Right,
Me too.
And I think of how many children in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, even probably into the 80s, were sent to military school because they were dyslexic or ADHD or nonlinear in some way. The joke is, if I'd gone to military school, I'd probably come out of John Wick, but that didn't happen.
I could share with you. Yeah. I've had so many experiences in my life where I was like, struggling. I remember the first day of chemical engineering when I was 18 years old, the first day of the first year at University of Toronto. And I was like, oh, I can't, this is not only can I not survive in this linear system, but to do like 40 hours of courses a week. And I have to do these like 8-hour chemical engineering labs. And I remember coming home and I'm like, okay, something's not right. This is not for me. And then my mom would be like, what do you mean you chose this? And I'm like, okay, I didn't know the way the education system works. I didn't have the comfort to be like, I can't think like this. I need to do something arts and media. And, I was always drawing and doing modeling and models of items, not chubby Jewish modeling. No, I feel that it's a huge challenge to those going from like, comforts of a high school, junior high, then you end up in college and, it's a different ball game. And my heart goes out to all those now even can talk about. You couldn't even talk about this stuff back then. Well, it was taboo. It was,
I didn't even know.
Michael is retarded. And I'm like, no, I'm really good. I need help. Can you get me a typewriter? I can't write. I can't. Well, you can't write either. What are we supposed to do?
I didn't know I was dyslexic. I didn't know I was ADHD until my late 40s and 50s. But I became an English major because in an English exam, there's no right answer. There's not a binary answer. Let me put it that way. There's not the answer is 54, 62. It wasn't something I had to memorize, but I could write well. And I could, if you can talk about existentialism, the Christ figure in literature, that just about covered every test I had. Right. And story structure. And I always saw the patterns. Right. And so that's how and then I did whatever I had to do to get through anything that required memorization. But Yeah, that was, and I had a love for it too. I mean, that's why I was a English major.
Life's funny. Life's funny. We think sometimes it takes some. What did I hear the other day? Someone's like, life doesn't begin until you're 40. Life doesn't begin until you're 50. I heard that a few times when I was younger. I saw it online. There's a movie, this is 40, whatever. But like, I'm starting to get it now that we don't feel comfortable really pursuing where we should be pursuing and really, standing up for our own self and even meeting different people with different challenges, whether it's a person who grew up in a complete atheist family and their whole life, they're like, oh man, I needed religion. I just didn't know how to go about that. Or then there's people who grow up super religious in a more rigid structure, and then they're like, oh man, I need to be an artist. Where's the, I think, right? In the
Yeah,
end,
yeah. But
we need to
our
find
parents didn't
ourselves.
know. Our parents didn't know, and they were probably nonlinear themselves, but they did not know, and were grown up with a set of expectations. Had I known, had I had understanding of it, I could have gone, oh, those things that seem really easy to me are my strengths. But you're conditioned as a child through elementary school and high school that only the really hard things are important. So you think that the things that are easy for you are not important. And you go, and it's like, okay, I'm going to run through a brick wall again. You're Alec Guinness in the bridge over the River Kwai. I'd like to go back in the box. It is, and it's taken me a long time to realize that, because what people need to do if they have nonlinear children is let them lean into their strengths, let them lean into their gifts, right? And that will show you the path. I think back in my day, my parents I only knew of about 5 jobs, and only 2 my parents approved of, right? But you do what you have to do, right? So
It's so true. After a certain point in life, we get comfortable. We learn from our own mistakes, and the world changes and things evolve. And even all those people in high school who were secretly, LGBT or whatever, now then they, at 40 something years old, come out of their hiding, if you will. And I'm like, well, I kind of knew, but like, and then everyone has different things they're hiding or struggling with. But when you're a teenager, it's not so safe to express it back then. Today, everyone's like openly like, oh, you're this and I'm this. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I could go back. I wish today's acceptance could go back to, 1993, and I could go to my like grade 4 teacher and be like, please, if you could just give me a computer. I can't write. I can't read and write properly. But no, I would just be sent out for being disruptive. But whatever, we roll with the punches. You had a good childhood, though. You survived.
You could have advocated for how you learn, right? You could have gone in and said, this is how I learn. This is why I learn that way. And instead of making me, do this test, could I make you a video? Could I, bring you a model? It is right. And so that's the other thing we did with our children, is we really taught them to advocate for themselves and how they learned. They had confidence in their gifts and strengths long before I was even probably aware of mine at those ages. It's exciting time. It really is an exciting time. And, I don't want to, we've got a lot of people that need to understand a lot more, but we're in a renaissance. We are in the age of creativity in a profound way that I don't think people have realized. There's a lot of focus of let's put AI in everything. There needs to be more of a focus of what can you do with the AI that we've never done before.
Oh my God. Here we're talking about such a juicy area, which is that it's like like I took all those courses in computer science and data science and artistic this, and all the mentors and all the advisors and all the teachers in my life. that to figure out who Mike Merker is and what my gifts are and where I'm good and how to lean into my strengths. And now I'm going, talking to this rabbi or this religious teacher, and I'm like, okay, don't you guys see that, like, it's not 1950 anymore? We need art and media and colors and shapes. We need, otherwise you lose the whole next generation.
Take them the research. Take them the research, right? Instead of this is what Mike said. Let them listen to the other people, right? There is more. When our kids switched schools, we would go meet with the administration and give them a hardback copy of the Dyslexic Advantage and what the gifts of dyslexia were, and what they could do, and that helped. That helped tremendously. But Mike,
some of the going deeper into this for those who are new to the topic. What are the advantages of the dyslexic or of the autistic brain? What are those secret advantages?
You're intelligent. There are a lot of times dyslexia is not even diagnosed until you've had an IQ test. That's what they do at the Yale Center for Dyslexia. You think visually and spatially, and you spot patterns. You've got a different way of processing information, perceiving the world, and it comes with its own unique gifts and strengths. And it may come with deficits. You may be slow to read, right? I think there's certain things. Some of the most interesting research is the difficulty with forms neurodiverse people have. With dyslexia and ADHD, it takes them 70% longer time to finish a form, and at least 20% of the ADHD people have rage quit already, right? And not even finished.
Hey, you caught me.
Yeah,
Merker, you said you would fill out the form. Oh, you got that too many boxes here. I'm going to kill someone.
Oh, I don't know what it is. It is universally difficult. And when you look and you see that 40 to 50% of inmates in America are dyslexic, you wonder, well, was that because they couldn't fill out a job application and were too embarrassed to ask?
So true. It's so true. I'm looking back now at different experiences in my life where I've been teaching, meeting with, learning from, talking with an array of people, many who were incarcerated, not for violent crimes. They didn't kill anyone. They just couldn't, they just were struggling to find a job. Very much innocent people with serious neurodiverse brain differences, their brain differences. So when this person, sometimes there's, being triggered by loud noises, or a fear of the unknown, or even people I know, innocent people who've been, but the world we live in is quite rigid. And yeah, if you don't fit in the box, bad things happen.
So, I'm going to tell you, I never sent innocent people to jail. I'm going to start there. But yeah, 80% of what I saw in the criminal justice system was people that struggled with life skills, right? And a lot of times they're treating their depression with substance abuse. They're They're treating all sorts of. Once people figured out that, well, maybe that person went to rehab 3 times and wasn't successful, is because they were really self-medicating depression. And if we put them on depression medicine, sobriety will take hold, right? And so we've got a visitor here. I
love it's beautiful. I always have children coming downstairs and jumping on the show here. And you felt as a prosecutor, it's a tough question. You felt when you were working in law enforcement at such a high level, you felt that it was hard to you sort of see a lot of the variables and you're like, oh, this person, yes, there was wrongdoing. Yes, there was some drinking and driving, but a lot of this just stems from oh, that person just needs Ritalin, and the mother stops scolding them for not being able to read. A lot of diseases and problems in our world can be solved with 50 milligrams of a bifenton or Ritalin, just a little I always
I
tell people, just
this is
take
sort
your
of
medicine and the world and your problems will shrink like 99%.
yeah, this is sort of cynical, but when I was a young prosecutor, there were substantial changes in behavioral health and the benefits that were given. And then in the later years, I noticed that we had become the indigent healthcare, mental health care system, right?
Mm.
And yeah, you know, I would have the dual diagnosed schizophrenic and cocaine addict, and you know, how do you help that person? I It was always about the responsibility for the actions and how can I help that person. I would say 20% of what came across the helm were predatory people, and that is who my focus was on, right? And I had a guy come up to me in the courthouse one day, and he he's a huge guy, and he said, "You remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I was checking his hands for a shank. You know, I didn't know what was about to happen because we'd had a hard fought 4-day trial. I knew he'd been in, and he'd just gotten out. And the guy started crying, and he goes, I want to just came here to thank you. And I've been sober a year today, right?" Um, and I'm like, "You've been in and out of this system so much. What made the difference?" He goes, "I just got tired of messing with you guys." Now, I rarely saw success stories come back. I only saw the failures come back, right? I'm sure there were people that went on and did great things that I never heard about, but that was like a blind man touching an elephant. That was a great data point that day for me, right? And sometimes the criminal, you know, they say you have to hit bottom. Sometimes the criminal justice system is the floor that people hit, right?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating about all the different facets of the world we live in. And I mean, where I live in Canada, there's so much more social services,
Mm.
and it's so much like how many times I get, my hand hurts or my leg is sore, or my back is aching. I just drive right to the emergency. They hook me up to maybe I don't know, a morphine, or a doctor checks or gives me stitches on something. They don't ask for your Visa card. They don't ask for anything. And then other areas of life, like law enforcement, a lot of things in Canada are much more toned down when it comes to the aggressiveness and the vastness of the prison population. And it's shocking sometimes hearing about, yeah, sure, there are problems, but in America it's different. As a prosecutor, you saw
Uh,
you had to deal with some real complex situations, and
yeah.
locking people up is the one way to respond to things. There aren't a million ways to deviate this and
Well,
this.
you could be as creative as you could be, you know, to help people. And I've got to do a lot of really super creative things that were I like to think made a difference. You know, incarceration was probably the last step out of solutions, and sometimes it was earned. As a prosecutor, I was the common sense because the law can't think, but it was. Yeah, I mean, the studies show that if you address the reading issues, you reduce recidivism or repeat offending by uh, anywhere from 40 to 50%. You know, look, I'm dyslexic. I don't have that number at my fingertips, but it's significant, and it could probably create more reduction in repeat offense than probably any other solution that we have. Right.
Amazing. And I know we're both busy and we got lots going on. And in the last, and of course, do this again. In the last 2 minutes, what do you say, John, to those who are struggling, maybe entrepreneurial struggles or neurodiverse struggles, or getting that first product up and running? I know you're an expert in product development,
Yeah,
10
yeah,
times better than I'll ever be.
yeah.
Praise the Lord. And what do you say to those who are struggling a few steps behind to uplift them in their personal or financial or entrepreneurial challenges?
Lean lean into your strengths. Find people that believe in you, and make sure you are around right people. And I'm constantly told now there's a certain way you have to do this as a startup. I've been told so many contradictory things by so many different people. It's like one of those high school athletes that all the parents are yelling at, slow down, run fast, stop. It is be true to yourself, right? And I think there's nobody like you. There's nobody like you, right? Like you, Mike Merker, nobody like you. So I think that's the best thing they can do. But I understand responsibilities as well. So
Amazing. What a great episode. We're going to pause over here, and we'll get this up later today. And a beautiful episode. We'll put a pause here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.